Now here, yes, we are going to start knowledge area 4. That's the 7th chapter in PM book, project cost management. As everybody can clearly understand, we give quite a good importance of cost management with every project, even within our life as well. So this is one of the most crucial project management, area or knowledge area we need to learn about. There are only 4 process groups here, like we have 7 or 6 in project schedule management. Here there are only 4 process group. First is plan cost management, then estimate cost, determine budget, and control cost. Again, as we have seen, just control schedule, even control cost aligned in that way also. Okay, so let's try to understand this one by one. Okay, so let's try to understand the first 3 processes, then we'll have the look at the 4th process group as well. The first process group, plan cost management. Here we are basically going to include every contract, every agreement we made again to make sure my cost of the projects are managed within those limits. So we include project charter, project management plan, EEFs and OPAs. The tools and techniques are expert judgment. All the COEs and SMEs, I can take the help, for managing the cost. And here, there are specific category as far as the software industry goes. We have something called cost account managers. These cost account managers take a very keen eye on every cost you manage as a project manager. And these are specifically a kind of financial planners which we can leverage from our organization, subject matter expert or expert pool, as we normally say, right? So we can take their help to make sure whatever I plan in terms of cost, I get reviewed and approved by them. Then I have data analysis, as I saw, data analysis as well as alternate analysis, whatever I do to plan my cost ahead of time proactively every day. Then I arrange various meetings in terms of making sure whatever I plan in terms of cost management have been reviewed or have been understood by everybody, so that we are in line throughout the project to make sure my cost is managed effectively. And I have basically include all my learnings, all my extra tuning up alignment towards the cost management in my cost management plan. So cost management plan is my output here, right? And then estimate costs. Here again, we'll try to basically estimate the cost with the tools and techniques shared with us by the project management. And on top of that, as we've discussed, we have 2 extra techniques which we'll learn here in terms of understanding how this estimating is going to help us to control my cost on every step. The inputs here are project management plan, project documents, which includes all the agreements, all the commitments I given to the client for a given cost. And the risk also involved in that, where if we have a fixed price project, the risks are a bit higher. If it's a time and material project, the risk will be lower. I'll explain to you again. The fixed price project is like a project when a state farm gives Infosys a project, please enhance my attendance management systems with the budget, within the budget of $2 million. So I have a fixed price allocated for a project. But otherwise, then there's something called time and material. What is time and material? We will bill the client as per the time and the material, man, material, machine have been applied to the given execution. So whenever I am doing attendance management system for a state farm, I'll try to keep a project management plan, give me cost every time, and I build my client on monthly basis. So let's say there are number of 4 resources allocated. There are so many third-party products, procured from the markets, and this is how it looks for the actual cost of a project for the month of May. And I build that thing first thing on the first day of June, so that they will basically pay me within the time I have given to them to pay those dollars, so that I can keep the project continuing for the next month and next months and so on and so forth. So this is what we call time and material. But normally in today's practical world, we have a mix and match of fixed price and time and material. And on top of that, we have a good number of penalties if we delay the project. So for that matters, I need to make sure I have all the project documents in my cloud storage to make sure I will not deviate from my plan, or all these plans are getting reflected, all the relevant commitments I have done to my clients, and so on and so forth. Again, there are enterprise environment factor and organizational process assets to help me out or to understand how these factors are affecting my project execution one way or the others. The tools and techniques in the estimate costs are expert judgment and the four estimation techniques which we have learned in the project schedule management knowledge area in the estimation process group or schedule estimating process group. Analogous estimating, parametric estimating, and bottom-up estimating or three-point estimating. These are the four, and on top of that, as I told you, nowadays we use something called K-log or kilo line of code or function point estimation. We're going to discuss this thing whenever we're going to understand 7.2 estimate cost process group in depth. Here we are just trying to review the project cost management so that in next session we can understand in depth how we're going to manage cost. Okay. Then we have PMIS, which takes data from your project management system and share it with the top management. So we need to understand what type of data the management is looking at and how the data is being collected from my project management plan automatically to make sure they get a really clear picture of my project execution rather than a skewed, because again, this is a kind of, telling how somebody is performing, right? So even in a digital way, in an automatic way, there could be some errors in terms of building this dashboard. So if there's an error in building this dashboard or the way dashboard is being created and shown to these top management delegates, I need to make sure the data is collected real time, data is collected in its true sense, and we'll understand about PMS also in depth. But I believe it's not that difficult to understand because this is the system which reports to the top management of how your project as in singular execution is doing in terms of all the other projects within that organization. So yes, this is how we need to understand the PMIs. Then of course decision making, and as far as decision making is concerned, we will make sure we normally preserve all the artifacts for a given decision making so that these artifacts are shared with the auditors or reviewers whenever they want. The outputs are, of course, the cost estimates, the basis of estimates in terms of what type of processes or estimating scientific methods have you followed, those type of basis of estimates, and the project documents update, as in the cost management plan and various other project management relevant project management plan to make sure we are estimating the cost and controlling the cost for the efficient project delivery. Anybody have any questions in estimate cost as of now? Again, here we are just reviewing. We are not, discussing in detail. But yeah, we'll have a complete go on it in our next session. Does anybody have any question at this moment? Any difficulty in understanding these scenarios?
No, sir.
You are good, right? Thanks. Thanks a lot for that. Then we have determined budgets. Now, as we all know, determined budget is also a periodic activity. Similarly, in PMI also. So here, what we are trying to do, we are trying to determine the budget for whatever we have done and whatever has to be done. Are we in the cost or are we in the budgeted lines? So if this project, let's say if it's a fixed price project, I need to give the attendance management system to the state farm for all their offices within the 6 countries at a cost of $10 million. So even on a daily basis, I'll track my budget in terms of is the 10 million sufficient, and I can clearly understand from my project plan if my project plan management planning software is intelligent enough. And even in Microsoft Project, the Microsoft Project suggests you the cost or even resource allocation for that matters very effectively, so that you can manage your cost effectively on day by day basis, on hour by hour basis, on minute by minute basis, depending on how you want to track the cost. The inputs to the determined budgets are, of course, the project management plan, all the project management plan, the project documents, all the project documents with all the commitments of deliveries, the penalties and the agreements I done with my client, and the business documents where whatever we committed to them in terms of even value add, we need to consider as an inclusion to my budget and try to understand it's not detrimental to my project planning, or it's basically already covered in my project planning. Same with the agreements and all. And of course, the enterprise environmental factors, to understand all the environmental factors affecting my project planning outside my organizational scope, and the organizational process assets where all the organizational, project management bodies like experts, COE, SMEs, or senior management bodies like PMO, they are helping me out to make this project success possible in given time, given budget with the quality. And that's how we normally determine our budget as an input. Now let's try to understand tools and techniques. Again, here we use expert judgment, so that we normally review all these plan on almost periodic basis. There are project review planned almost on a weekly basis or once in a sprint kind of times every time in all the organizations normally. So that's why we have experts to help us out. And this we are talking about the financial experts, where they were basically tracked down if my execution financial executions are on budget, or we are going off budget. So even in terms of budget, am I red, yellow, green? If I'm green, well, very good. If I'm in yellow, how can I make it to the green? If I'm in red, do I have to close the project? If not, then yes, how do we can bring that red to green? And that's what will be the plan shared by these guys, these experts, these COEs and SMEs in the financial domain area, financial expertise area. Then cost aggregation is one of the tools and techniques where we try to aggregate cost. Now let's try to understand this cost aggregation. We'll learn about the exact tools and techniques in depth whenever we do determine budget in details. But let's try to have a review of what is cost aggregation. Whenever you try to plan a cost, right? Let's say you're planning a resource. Every resource has a salary. Every human resource attached a salary, and they work on a different salary. But for a project finance perspective, an organization have a standard number called cost aggregation, where I normally take so many dollars, let's say $50 per hour as an aggregate cost for every resources for a given resource band. And yes, there could be a given resource band, or there don't have to be given resource band. So everybody, including project managers to the freshers, are normally billed at $50 for understanding the budget of a project. $50 per hour for the project planning, whatever you've done. Now, this is again cost aggregation, makes our process quite easy or quite simplistic to plan our budget. But not every organization have flat cost aggregation, but they might have something called grade cost aggregation. So what they do, to grade 3, this is the cost; to grade 2, this is the cost; to grade 2, this is the cost, and so on and so forth. So that whenever I try to calculate the cost at actuals, I might get well analyzed cost according to the grade basis as well. So if I take more senior resources, his cost will be a bit higher, and so that will get reflected in my project planning as well. Okay, and that's how we do cost aggregation. Then we have data analysis. Data analysis to make sure all these costs, whatever we aggregated, are in plan, are in budget, in my control limits to execute these projects. And then the historical information review, who normally talks about similarly the organizational knowledge base. So for all type of similar historical executions, how were the budget timelines? Are we on budget, or have we delayed it, or have we utilize the management contingencies or not, or those kind of scenarios. And there, the funding limit reconciliation also. In terms of funding limit reconciliation, I have to make sure, do I have to use the management reserve in case if my project goes in yellow, so that I can utilize for fast tracking, I can take some extra resource and get the project on track in green zone whenever I'm trying to execute this project. And then I have financing in case if my project is getting quite a good number of change requests and I might need to add some budget to add. So what I'll do some financing request processing via PMO to the client, so that this cost is appropriated, added to the budget, so that even in the next billing cycle, be it a monthly, quarterly, yearly, depending upon your agreements, contractual obligations, you can bill the client accordingly. And this is what we can say more to do with refinancing rather than financing, or realigning the budget of my project at actuals at a practical levels. And then of course the outputs are cost baseline. Any changes in my actual cost might be due to CRs, might be due to some added difficulties or added changes to my current project executions. I have to understand the changes in cost and basically align my plan accordingly. Similarly, the project funding requirements, in case if there are too many CR, I might request extra project budgeting for a given execution as well. Or I might, phase out a project and start a new sprint just to make sure all these CRs, the change requests or additions will be addressed within due course of time, and they will build separately to the client. And these all basically gets updated in all project documents wherever the necessary, be it a schedule, scope, or any cost management plan. And that's why there is a project document separate. Does anybody have any questions on determining budgets, process group?
No, sir.
Let me forward it. Then the last, project control cost. As we've seen, project schedule, control schedule. Similarly, control cost is a process group in project cost management knowledge area. 7.4. The project management plan, project documents, project funding requirements, work performance data, and organized process assets are the inputs. Here, we will include all the agreements, plans, and made for cost relation whenever you are taking inputs as far as controlling cost process goes. And here we are also basically trying to include all the funding requirements if there are any additional, as we have just seen in the last process group. So here all these project extra funding requirements that has to be processed with the client and with the relevant top management body within your organization as well. And of course, we have work performance data, the efficiencies which we have collected for a given resources for a similar type of execution in past. And then the tools and techniques are expert judgment, where we are going to take the help of experts to make sure my planning is on a good lines, better judgments, and if there are any shortfalls, I can address them proactively. And then I do data analysis to make sure whatever trends I can understand in terms of if I have already progressed in the project, am I on budget within the cost limits given to me, and so on and so forth. And to complete performance index. What do you mean by to complete performance index? This is also referred as a earn value management, as we discussed. So what is this? This is basically talks about, let's say today, as in today is how much? 2nd of June, right? So on a 2nd of June, how much my project have been progressed in terms of delivery or result created, how much results or delivery yet to be acquired, how many days do I have, how much budget do I have, is it sufficient, is it not sufficient? And this way we normally calculate the whole to complete performance index, which will make sure I'm in budget or over budget, is it red, green, yellow, and those kind of scenarios, right? So here again, we are trying to label a project for its efficiencies, for its completion on almost a daily basis. And this is done automatically by the project management software. Again, the PMIS, because PMIS reports all such scenarios to the top management. So as a project manager, I need to understand PMIS to make sure the correct data have been reported to the top management. The outputs are the efficiency of the resources, the work performance information, cost forecast, and these can be simply cost curve extrapolation or trend analysis to make sure I am performing within the budget given to me till the project ends. Again, the change request, as we discussed, these can add value or the cost overburden to the project. So normally, as we discussed, I can plan this change request to the next sprint or to entirely different phase, different project can be spanned out due to the cost overburdens or due to the actual financial requirement for these change requests. Then of course we have project management plan updates for all these relevant alignment within the cost and the project document update in terms of any schedule scope or cost variation. Does anybody have any questions on project control cost as of now?
No.
Okay. Let me rephrase again. The project cost management control cost is the process of monitoring the status of a project to update the project cost and managing changes. So here, every change is reflected on the cost. Let's say if you want to add something extra, even within your day's progress, it costs you a schedule and a cost, right? Similarly, in a project, if you want to do some value add to the customer, if you want to give extra to the customer, it will come at a cost. It can be something like additional schedule, which reflects to the additional cost and so on and so forth. So that's why controlling cost is basically controlling scope, schedule, as well as resource alignments as well. And these are basically getting reflected to the cost baseline as they change the overall cost progression or cost budgeting within my project. The key benefits of this process is that the cost baseline is maintained throughout the project. This means that I am executing my project within the given budget, within the given cost lines to me, and I am not utilizing any reserve. And if I'm planning to utilize, then I need to take permission of relevant stock management as per your company quality policies or guidelines or rule books. This process is performed throughout the project. It's in a monitoring and control process group so that I control my project cost almost on a daily basis, if not hourly basis. And this is how, as a project manager, I keep controlling cost on every step of the day. In our next session, we'll basically try to understand how to plan cost, how to manage the cost effectively. This is the first project group, a process group in our project cost management. We are almost at the end of our today's session timing. Please ask any questions if you have, and then we'll basically part for our part till our next session. Anybody have any questions as of now?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll repeat again. If you haven't done the Excel, hands-on workshop for the project planning, please do it now. Otherwise, it's really difficult to understand project cost management, because with that raw understanding only we can plan the cost effectively. Otherwise, it's again kind of superficial management we are talking about. I want you to be a kind of micromanagers so that you know each and every entity of the project management, and you can paint the picture as an artist, as an efficient artist. That's what I want you to be in the chair of a good project manager, an efficient project manager. For that, you need to make that Excel project management plan. Whatever we've basically done, review thrice, I believe. Okay, so no issues. Means I'm there for you. Even if we need to do the review 4 times, I'm fine with that. But you have to try it once by yourself so that you know what's stopping you, what is basically you can't do, so that I can give that extra help to make sure you are able to complete that task. That's homework, right? Again, I'll repeat. Please go through the chapter number 6 in the PM book, listen to it, and chapter number 7, which we are starting as a project cost management. Project cost management, I believe is one of the most biggest chapter in the PM book, where we have all these, cost estimation thought process, unvalue management, the estimation processes, the review processes, and all those things which we're going to learn starting in our next session. Okay, so our next session will be on today's 2nd June, right? So we have a session on 4th June. Okay, so let's meet on 4th June morning to basically understand project cost management. Again, if you have any questions, you are free to contact me through WhatsApp, and I'll be happy to happy to answer your questions. Okay, otherwise we will meet on 4th June Saturday at 9 p.m. Okay,
Okay, sir.
thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care. Good night.